Hi everybody, this is Mary Deatherage with Stamps and Lingers, and I'm coming to you today with a video tutorial for Splitcoaststampers. I'm just going to move this just a little bit to the left, and we're going to make this cute gift box with cardstock and designer paper, any kind of pattern paper you like, and we're going to use a scoreboard of some sort, whichever one that you happen to have handy. This is a nice little box. It's great for any kind of a gift. The size across the bottom and sides is 3 by 3 square, so it'll hold a nicely sized gift, either food or something fun like gift soap, because who doesn't love a good old pump of gift soap? And it's very sturdy because we made it sturdy so that it would hold a heavy bottle. And it's got nice finished edges on the lid and on the top of the box. This particular one is about 6.5 inches tall, and it was designed to hold a Mrs. Myers. This is a, this is a 12.5 ounce bottle. So if you happen to need to put a 12.5 ounce bottle of Mrs. Myers Clean Day pump soap in a box, this is the exact right size. But I'm also going to show you how to modify the height so that you could put a different size gift in. All right, so let's set that aside and we'll go ahead and get started here. Just a second. All right, so first let's talk about a little bit of math. Don't be scared, it's quite simple math, really. What we want to do is figure out how tall a box needs to be in order to fit your gift. So first off, you need to know that the length for this particular box will always be 12 inches. So it's always going to be a 12-inch piece lengthwise. To figure the height, or the width if you will, first determine the height of your bottle. This one is about 6 3/8. I rounded it up to 6.5. And you're going to take that number and add 2 3/4 inches, and that is how you determine how wide your piece of paper needs to be. Okay, so in this case I came up with a 9 1/2 inch by 12 inch piece of cardstock, so 12 and 9 1/2. All right, and let's see, somewhere here I have that cardstock. Okay, so this is the cardstock we're going to use today. 9 1/2 by 12 is the box itself, and that's Coastal Cabana. Then I have a lid that is 6 inches by 6 inches. That will be the same size regardless of what height your box is. And then we're going to have a bottom square to finish off the bottom of the box, and that is 2 3/4 by 2 3/4. And that's all in the same color. Then we have some pieces of cardstock and some patterned paper of your choice. In this case, I used Flirty Flamingo for the cardstock to create my mats, and I've got some Let It Snow DSP from Stampin' Up! For the sides and for the top. This is actually just the reverse of the other design. Okay, so here's my only tip. If you pick a designer paper that needs to be right side up, you'll want to be paying attention to that when you adhere it to your box. I promise, because otherwise you'll end up with one panel like that, and then people will be like, whoa, that's weird. And then you can just say, well, I'm eccentric. Yeah, and pretend like you meant to do it that way. Okay, so these are the card cuts. I'm going to go ahead and leave this for just a beat so that you can see that. You could stop the video here if you want. And I'll also put it in the written form of the tutorial. And then this is the math that you are going to be working on. Measure the height of the gift. That becomes H. Then you're going to determine your cardstock height is, or width is, H plus 2 3/4, like we just talked about. And then the score lines on the long side, the 12-inch side, will always be 2 7/8, 5 3/4, 8 5/8, and 11 1/2. On the short side, though, you're going to have to adjust it based on the height that you have elected to make your box. You'll always have a score line at the 1/2 inch along the short side, and then you're going to score at 2 1/4 inches from the other end. So basically the width minus 2 1/4 inches. So in this case, that's 9 1/2 minus 2 1/4. That comes out to 7 1/4 inches as my second score. Okay, and then the lid is 6 by 6, and these are always the score lines: 1/2 inch, 1 1/2, 4 1/2, and 5 1/2. So let's show you that. Okay, all right, here we go. So I'm using a scoreboard, and we're going to score our box first. Start with the 12.5-inch side across the top. And as I mentioned earlier, we are going to cut, or no, not cut, score at 2 7/8 inches. And at 5 3/4 inches. And at 8 5/8 inches. And at 11.5 inches. Okay, then you're going to rotate 90 degrees. You can go either way, but I tend to go to the left just because it's easy. And remember I said the first score is always going to be at 1/2 inch. That's actually creating the top of the box. And then the next one is the one where you took the width minus 2 1/4 inches. So in this case, we had 9.5, 1 inch, 2 inch, 2 1/4, gets me to a 7.5 inch score line. Okay, easy peasy. Now, just so I can show you the lid, I've already scored it, but it's very simple. It's a 6 by 6 inch square. Place it in the corner, and then you're going to score at 1/2 inch, at 1.5 inches, at 4.5 inches, and at 5.5 inches. Rotate once, 90 degrees, and then again at 1/2 inch, 1.5, 4.5, and 5.5. Okay, and then we'll set that aside. And that's all you need your scoreboard for. We are done with that. All right, so now let's start with our box base. And the first thing to do, just to help you out, is to fold all of your scores and give them a good burnish with your bone folder. It really helps to kind of keep track of what's going on if you do these folds ahead of time. Sometimes it's a little more complicated to figure out where to put your adhesive, and we're going to do that before we start putting things together. So it'll help you if you get everything scored. All right. Now I have made a few of these in the last week because I decided to give one to all of my friends who will be at Christmas dinner on Wednesday, which meant a total of 5, 6, 7, 9 boxes. So yeah, I've made a few boxes. Okay, so we've got everything folded. Let me show you how it kind of comes together. You can see you have a 1/2 inch across the long way. That becomes the top of the box. So here's the top of the box, here is the bottom of the box. These are going to fold in to create the bottom. This 1/2 inch along this side is what's going to hold our adhesive to create our box. Okay? Why do I show you that? Because it helps you to figure out where to put your adhesive. I like tear and tape for these kinds of things because it's the strongest holding. So what we're going to do first is put a piece of tear and tape along the score line. Get as close to the score line as you can because this is where you're holding your box together and you don't want any gaps, okay? So just run your tear and tape like that. On the other side, we're going to put the tear and tape to hold our top lip. And when I get this done, I'll kind of show you and you'll see how it comes together, and then I think it'll be a lot easier to visualize it. Okay? So if you think that through, the box folds together like this, so that's why the adhesive is on that side of the cardstock. And once it's together, the lid, the top of the box lip is going to fold in. So that's why the adhesive is on that side. Okay? The last little bit of adhesive we want to place is along the flaps, and we're going to go on the same side that you put your adhesive to hold the box together. Okay, so opposite the lid, same size as you put it on to hold it together. And you can just run some tear and tape along there. And this, by putting the tear and tape on first and then making your cuts, you get nice, neat edges of adhesive. So speaking of cuts, let's go ahead and get started. We're really just going to create tabs here. So go to where the 2 1/2-inch score lines come together. You can see there's a little square, and I want you to just cut a diagonal right across there. Then make your first fold and go from the score line to the edge, like so. Fold the next fold along from the score line to the edge of the cardstock. And then your final fold from the score line to the edge of the cardstock. And then on the end, you can just go and create that other little ear. So you see what we've done there? We've created ears. Look how tidy the tear and tape is by cutting that by putting the tear and tape down before you make the cuts. Otherwise, you're trying to line it up and trim it off. So that's a much easier way to do business. All right, so let's do the same essentially on the other side. Here where you've got this little tiny rectangle, the first thing I want you to do is just make a diagonal cut from the bottom to where the score lines come together, and then make another diagonal there. Okay, so you've cut ends on both sides of that small 1/2 inch, and you have started your little ears there for the tabs. So then we're going to close up and do essentially the same thing on this side that we did on the other side of the cardstock. I'm going to go right up to the score line and cut, fold. Now you can also go this way if you prefer. For these longer cuts, I do better if I go from the bottom up. All right. And then make that final fold. Easy peasy. And we are almost done cutting here. And then go ahead and tabulate that last piece. All right. So now you can see what we've got. This is how it looks on the other side. All right. So to put the box together, just fold in the first score and remove your tear and tape, and then fold the other end over and really work to get that cut edge lined up with the score line. Okay, that's kind of important right here, and that's why you put that tear and tape so close to the score, so that the adhesive would be right at the edge and make it good, and give it a little burnish. All right, easy peasy. Now let's go ahead and decorate it. I can tell you from experience that if you forget to do this part and need to put your panels on after the box is already assembled, you can do it, I promise, but it's not quite as easy. Okay, so let's do it like this and pretend like we know what we're doing. So when I first saw this box created out online, the demonstrator said that the glue would help to adhere and strengthen the cardstock, and I think that actually is a valid point. So instead of just using adhesive right at the edges like I normally would with liquid glue, I put it along all inside so that that's going to all bond with the cardstock fibers and help to strengthen your box. Here again, this is where it's important that you put the right side up. This is the bottom, this is the top. So the snowman really ought to be standing up, so we're going to put him on just like that. Okay. Like that. I love how the flirty flamingo looks with this pretty cardstock. And we're just going to do that 3 more times, but I'm going to make sure to put it on right side up. Not saying I've ever put it on upside down, but I absolutely have put it on upside down. So, don't be like me. Okay, here we go. We'll get this done. Now, when I first started making these cards, I got a little bit carried away with thinking I could match up designs, but it works for a couple of panels, and then you get to the end and it goes to pot. So don't even worry about it. It's just not a thing. So you can just kind of flop over. What I do want you to try to do is to try to line up the tops and bottoms of your mats as well as you can, just so that it's a little tidier. Okay, and then we're just going to fold our way around the box and adhere all of these panels. All right. Not sure if this will get sped up in post-production, but if it doesn't, you can always fast forward through. All right, there's the last one there. We got one more to go, and then we can put it together and you're gonna see it become a box. And it's kind of cool. I'm really actually very impressed with how strong this is. I mean, I don't know that I'd put a barbell in it. Why you'd give anybody a barbell as a gift, I don't really know. But if you're going to do that, I'd find a different box. That's just me, though. But I think it will work swimmingly for that Mrs. Myers soap. And I made some with some a little more masculine paper to give some Gojo in. All right, so there we go. Now, let's go ahead and fold the tops down, the top edges. Let me close my glue here so that I can use it later. All we're going to do is just reach in and pull the tear and tape and bend over the top and give it a little bit of a rub, and then just do that 3 more times. And it really finishes the top off very nicely to have that edge there like that, instead of an open cut edge. And it makes the whole thing sturdier and much easier to keep square. I've made boxes in the past that didn't have this, and it's not nearly as nice, so this is a good step. All right, so there you go, and you can see how the top of the box has come together. Now, to put the bottom together, we're just going to fold these flaps in like that. And you can see it's kind of ugly, but we're gonna cover it up, and it's gonna look better and be stronger. So just bear with me here. You're gonna pull these pieces of tear and tape, and because it's covered is why I didn't get real head up about where the tear and tape went when I was sitting it down at the very beginning. One thing you do want to do here is, as you're putting each of the flaps down, you want to square the box up a little bit. Now, you can't push real hard there because, you know, you can't really push against nothing, but you can reach in and give it a little push like that with your hand, okay? Then do again and pull off the tear and tape cover. Now, you could also use just a liquid glue if you want. I prefer the tear and tape, even though it's going to be persnickety since I'm on camera. Why wouldn't it be? I mean, sure. But I like the tear and tape. That's how I roll. Okay, so we'll get this last piece down, and we're almost done with the box. And then we'll put the lid together lickety-split, and we'll be done. Okay, so just kind of square as you go. And you can pick this last tear and tape up, and then we're going to put the cover on the bottom. Now, the cover is just a piece of the same color cardstock. It's 2 3/4 inches square. And I'm going to use some liquid glue. So the box is going to be real sturdy now with the tear and tape and the liquid glue kind of all around it. And you just want to center it best you can. I don't think anybody's going to get their micrometer out, but you'll know if it's cattywampus. Okay, and then you can turn it upside down and give a little press on the inside, like that. And there is your box. Really, seriously, how cute is that box? And it perfectly fits the Mrs. Myers soap. Okay, so let's set that aside and make the lid. Now, I'm going to tell you, remember we did 4 scores along the 6-inch piece, and then we turned it and did another 4. And so you want to just give those all a good fold and a burnish. And I think you're going to really like how this comes out. I probably should slow down just a little bit before I make a mistake. That has never happened to me. I have never made a mistake, said no crafter ever. But we all know that those are just opportunities to embellish and change your design. Okay, so we've made all of our folds. I'm going to go ahead and adhere my lid topper on. And again, this is a 2 3/4 by 2 3/4 inch square of Flirty Flamingo. And then my patterned paper, which in this case is Let It Snow DSP. And I'm just adhering that in the center of my lid. You can do that after the lid's together. I just kind of like to do it ahead of time because it's easier for me. And I'm all about easy. Okay, so turn it upside down. First thing we're going to do is we're going to mark halfway. Okay, so from here to here, the middle square is 3 inches. So against this little score line here, just make a little mark at 1.5, and then opposite at 1.5. And then draw yourself a little line here, and I'll show. There's method to my madness, I promise. Okay. Now, let's go ahead and put some tear and tape for the same reason that we put tear and tape on ahead of time before, because it's much easier when you've cut it to have everything already adhesivated. All right, so we're just gonna put tear and tape along the inside of each of these little panels, like this. I love this tear and tape. I don't know if you guys used to use the red colored one from Stampin' Up, but boy, that was so hard to get the top off of, and it didn't tear. You literally had to cut it with scissors, and it was very, very annoying. Okay, so now what we're gonna do, if you recall when we saw the lid, we have these little holes in the side to hold some ribbon so that you can tie the box together. I am using the detailed trio punch from Stampin' Up, but you could use anything that would create a likely size hole. But I'm going to show you something cool about this. We're going to put a hole on this end, on this side and this side. And what I want you to do is just fold your fold over, not adhered, it's not adhered yet, it's just folded. And you'll see on this particular stamp there is a line there. And what you're going to do is you're going to line that line up with the pencil line that you made on the cardstock, and that's where you're going to punch. Okay? Now, I can tell you that if you forget this step and get everything put together, it just doesn't work as good. I promise. So you really kind of want to do this before you get the box put together. Okay? And we'll get that punched. There we go. All right, so you can see my little holes there. So now we're going to do some cutting. So stick with me. Start out with your thumb holding like this, okay? And that's kind of your starting point. You can see you've got these little squares surrounded by score lines. What you want to do is cut from the edge right to the second score line, and then do the one right next to it. Then rotate 90 degrees, and again on the right side square, right side, not this side, right side, go from the edge to the second score line. Like that. Rotate 90 degrees, and do the two score lines right next to each other from the edge to the second score line, and rotate 90 degrees to do the final set. Okay, so now you can see what we have is we've got 4 flaps that run opposite directions. Okay, so now we're going to make our little ears again. I like ears. We like ears. Okay, so on our first end, we're going to cut a tab like that, and you can see that cuts off this large piece. Okay, and you can just rotate and do the next one. Rotate, do the next one. Rotate and do the last one, like that. Okay. All right, then on each of the tabs, the little square tabs, you can cut the end off, like that. Now, after you've made 9 or 10 of these, or 2, you can combine some steps, but just for clarity's sake, we're going to do it kind of one step at a time. Okay, so now I've cut all the tabs off. You can see I've got 4 tabs going opposite directions, like that. Okay, so now I'm going to just ear them a little bit, which means you're taking out some cardstock basically to make it a little less bulky. So all I've done is just cut at a diagonal to create the tab, and then you want to match the tab there like that, so that this has the same kind of clean line. And then just do that at each of the tab corners. Easy peasy. And I can assure you, once you've done 2 or 3 of these, you're going to do 6 or 12 at a time. You're going to do all of the cuts at once and be like, Mary, why did you do it so methodically? Well, because it's easier to learn methodically and then get better, right? Also, I have a much better chance of not screwing up if I do it like this. Okay. And there we go, is the end. Okay, so when you get done making your lid, it should look like this. You've got a tab, and a tab, and a tab, and a tab. Easy. All right, so now we're going to just go ahead and fold our edges in. Take off the tear and tape, fold over and give it a rub, and then just roll around like so. And we're going to erase that little mark before I get much further. Going to erase that little mark before I get much further. It's really, really hard to erase it once you put the box together, or the lid together, I promise. So don't do that. Sorry for the wiggling of the camera. Okay, there we go. And we'll just pull the rest of these off. Sorry for the out of orderness there, but I didn't want to forget it. And we'll get the last one going. Okay, like so. Okay, now flip the box over so that you've got your DSP showing. And we're going to use tear and tape and liquid glue, and I'm using the tear and tape on these flaps to give a little holding power while the glue sets good. Okay, so I'm just putting a little bit of tear and tape on each of the tabs. Remember, we're on the same side of the cardstock as you put your DSP top. And then pick up the covers of all 4 tabs, like this. And then we're going to put some adhesive. Now here's a trick I want you to remember. I want you to put a little line of your glue as close to that score line as you can, okay? Because that's going to help you make the corners of your box be nice and tight, okay? And so we're just going to do that all the way around, okay? And the final one, like that, okay. And now all you got to do is fold up the pieces and sides and hook things together. And my little cat, you may hear her in the background, she's just screaming for no apparent reason. So you can see I've just tucked that in and it is adhered to the inside of the lid. And you just go around and do that all 4 times. And if you got a little too much glue, give it a little wipe. Okay. Oop. And then drop your lid. Okay, there we go. Like that. And then the final side. And then take your bone folder and lay the lid up on its edge and stick the bone folder right in the corner. Can you see what I'm doing there? Sticking it right in the corner and then giving it a good burnish. Okay, right in the corner and give it a good burnish. Right in the corner, right in the corner. And that should help to make the corners stick down better. All right? So to finish off, you're going to take some ribbon. I've got some ribbon here. And now I'm not going to even tell you how long to make this. I made mine about 35 inches long because I'm horrible at making bows. And I knew I was going to have to make a bow on camera. And so you can do however long you need. But basically, you're going to go from the inside of the lid to the outside with one end. And then go from the inside of the lid to the outside with the other end. Okay, and then kind of keep this up like this, and we're going to stick it on top of the box. Trust me when I tell you, you can put your gift in first, would be better. And then put your lid on, and then draw the ribbon up, like that, and then straighten everything up. Straighten everything up and tie your bow like so. And you can see I really got too long because public bows are difficult for me, and so I wanted to give myself a fighting chance of making a bow without looking like a complete fool. So I gave myself extra ribbon. All right, so there we go. And then you can tidy it up to make it look gift worthy and put on a cute little tag, and you're ready to go. Alrighty, I hope you've enjoyed it, and I hope you'll make yourself a nice gift box the next time that you need something. Thank you so much for watching. Bye-bye.